Don't mind today, I'm going to have you do just a little bit of Bible surfing, but to keep it easy, it's all going to be in the first 3 out of 4 Gospels. So if you can find the first one in Matthew, you're not going to be far from any of the rest of them. So Matthew chapter 4, verses 18 through 22. When you hear this, you're going to say, wait a minute, didn't you just read that? Because it sounds like what you just read. Bear with me if you would. Starting with verse 18. And walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they immediately left the nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets. He called them. And they immediately left the boat and their father and followed him. Next passage of Scripture, please, is out of John chapter 1. Just a little promo here. I like hearing the pages of the Bible turn. For the simple reason that in our technological age that we have today, everything's put on the screen, and so nobody has to do anything other than just sit there and read it. And I think it's always good to open up the Word itself and not only know that it's there, but like I've said in years past, that way whenever I get boring, you've got some good reading material right there in front of you. So John chapter 1, verses 35 through 51. And it says, again, the next day John was standing with 2 of his disciples, and he looked upon Jesus as he walked and said, behold, the Lamb of God. And the 2 disciples heard him speak, and they followed Jesus. And Jesus turned and beheld them following and said to them, what do you seek? And they said to him, Rabbi, which translated means teacher, where are you staying? He said to them, come, and you'll see. They came therefore and saw where he was staying, and they stayed with him that day, for it was about the 10th hour. One of the 2 who heard John speak and followed him was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. He found first his own brother Simon and said to him, we have found the Messiah, which translated means Christ. He brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, you are Simon, the son of John. You shall be called Cephas, which is translated Peter. The next day he proposed to go forth into Galilee, and he found Philip, and Jesus said to him, follow me. Now Philip was a man from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said to him, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip said to him, come and see. Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him and said of him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile. Nathanael said to him, how do you know me? Jesus answered and said to him, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael answered him, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Jesus answered and said to him, because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You shall see greater things than these. And he said to him, truly, truly, I say to you, you shall see the heavens opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. Last passage of Scripture for right now. Mark chapter 2. Verses 14 through 17. Verse 14, Mark. And as he passed by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting in the tax office, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. And it came about that he was reclining at the table in his house, and many tax gatherers and sinners were dining with Jesus and his disciples. For there were many of them, and they were following him. And when the scribes of the Pharisees saw that he was eating with the sinners and tax gatherers, they began saying to his disciples, "Why is he eating and drinking with tax gatherers and sinners?" And Jesus, hearing this, said to them, "It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners." I hope you saw the thread I was trying to sow with that, and that is that whenever Jesus found his disciples, did you notice how compelling he was in calling them to follow? I mean, it was just very, very plain. Come, follow me. Come, follow me. You know, when I look at this, I realize that he didn't travel through all the country of Israel and pick out the top 12 guys. But he found people who were qualified to do one thing, and that was to say, okay. I mean, they weren't gifted in a lot of things. You know, they were crude in a lot of ways. But whenever he said, "Follow me," they just, okay, I will. Now, you know, you would think to give up their life, to give up their, you know, what they had known, and here was a stranger. Maybe they'd heard some about him, maybe they'd even seen a little bit about him, but yet to just go and follow. You know, as I was thinking about that, you know, he didn't even offer them anything. And the reason I bring that up is because, you know, today, whenever we are making that decision, or when we're weighing whether to become a Christian or not, whether we're weighing to follow in the footsteps of Christ, or whether we're weighing whether or not to become, you know, change our life, the natural reaction is, what's in it for me? You know, and Jesus never mentioned to any of his disciples, he didn't say, "Come and I'll make you rich." He didn't say, "Come and I'll make sure that you're never sick another day in your life." He never said, you know, "Come and I will give you possessions and power and all this stuff that you want." He never even said, "Come and I will restore all of your broken relationships." He never even said anything like, "Come and I'll help you understand how women think." Just see if you're listening or not. Apparently not. He didn't offer them a whole lot. Come and follow me. Just come and follow me. There was something about the way he said, "Come, follow me," with no expectations, with no pre-qualifications, with no, "This is what I'm going to expect out of you," but just come and follow me. Now, we always look at what that's going to entail. You know, personally speaking, whenever I felt that call to come follow Christ, it was that weighing of, you know, I'm going to have to give up this, I'm going to have to give up this, I'm going to have to give up this, and I can't do this, and I can't go here, and I can't do this, and it was just like all the rules and the regulations that I was going to have to follow. You know, it was not going to be a simple thing to do. It was going to be so difficult and going to be nearly impossible, because going from where I was to coming into a state of perfection, or so I thought, which I've never even gotten close, but, you know, it was that mindset. But looking back, I remember how the invitation was. It was never, "Come and I'll do this for you." It was just, come. Just come. Now, the disciples walked with Jesus And you know, they saw miracles. They saw, you know, lives changed. They saw the lame walk. They saw the blind see. They saw, you know, people being raised from the dead. They saw so much. And all through that time, but none of them ever got rich. None of them ever really developed what you'd call a power status or a prestige status. And yet they stayed with him. Why did they stay? I think if you look at the question of come follow me, you got to look at those who have already came and followed and ask, why did they stay? Why did they stay? Did all of their problems magically go away? Did all of their issues that they had, maybe with family, with friends, or whatever, did they just disappear and everybody gets along and everybody's singing Kumbaya and everything's just great and marvelous all the time? Or did they find something in that traveling and following that made it all worth it? You know, Jesus warned a lot of people about following him that, you know, it's going to cause division within your families. Because if you love them more than you love me, there's going to be problems. We have to separate ourselves from them, but if we're more willing to follow family members or friends that are walking the opposite direction than we are Christ, then we're on the wrong road. If Jesus would have been looking for qualified people to follow a bunch of rules and a bunch of regulations, he would have picked out the religious rulers who were there at the time, because they were good at following rules. I mean, they made up more rules to add to what Moses had just so that they could do it, but mostly so that they could separate everybody else from themselves. You know, you look at the people that Jesus called, you know, fishermen. You know, I've been fishing with Robin before. I've been fishing by myself before. And you know what it's like whenever you catch fish. And then after you're through catching fish and you've had a really good day and you've cleaned the fish and you put them in the freezer, you fried them, and you go like this and you think, oh man. Now to imagine being around fish all the time and not getting a chance to go and take a hot shower every night. Just guess what aroma came forth from all those guys. I mean, these were not the upper crust of society here. You had your tax collector, Levi or Matthew, whichever one you want to go by, you know, and everybody hated him. You know, the religious rulers, they didn't like him. The regular people didn't like him. Nobody trusted him because they were just known to be crooked. They were cast into the same category as the out-and-out sinners. You know, the low class of society. And yet Jesus says, come, follow me. And Levi, having money, having prestige, having some power, no friends, but he had other friends who were just as bad as he was, but he really didn't have much, and so he gets up and goes. But then he calls a meal for all of his friends and invites all of his friends. And now think about this. You're the friend of Levi, and you've been taking all this money. Nobody likes you. And Matthew calls and says, you know, you're one of us. He says, come together. I want you to meet this guy who I left everything for, and I'm going to give up half my money to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody, I'm going to give them 4 times as much back. And they're all going, oh, wow, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. But Matthew stayed with him. Why do people give up the lifestyle that they had to come and follow someone who just, by worldly standards, never made it? And I think that is found in in the fact that they saw so much, they experienced so much, that all the stuff that they realized that they were giving up was nothing in comparison to all the stuff that they were seeing, that they were doing, that they were helping. You know, because all of a sudden, their lives went from being focused on me and what I can do and what I can get and how I can be happy, what I can have, to how can I help somebody else? You know, to be able to say to a lame person, you know, to get up and take your pallet and go home. Your life of being a beggar and just being a downcast to society is over. Your life can go on now. You've got a future. To open up the eyes of a blind person, you know, and so that they could see, and their life is completely transformed. And you didn't even make any money off of it. You know, but you did it to help people. And they saw so much of their benefits that they followed not just to the cross, but clear to the end of their life. Now then, there was 12 disciples, but only 11 followed. Judas, it never tells how Jesus called Judas, or even if he did call Judas. Because there were so many people that was following Jesus, you wonder if Judas was one of those who just kind of tagged along and just stayed with them for so long that he was considered one of the 12. Jesus knew who he was. He knew what his motives was. He knew what he was going to end up doing, but he left him stay. The difference between Judas and the others was Judas still focused on himself. And the other disciples realized that it wasn't about me anymore. It was about the benefits that I enjoy by helping someone else, by doing something for someone else. The fulfillment that I can get out of just living and modeling my life after that of Jesus. And Judas never got that. Now, I know that I've heard the theory that whenever Judas betrayed Jesus, that he was trying to push him into his kingdom, that he was trying to force his hand. I don't really buy that. I mean, that's just me personally. I don't know this. But I look at that as Judas has been one who never really followed the motivation of Jesus, but he just tagged along. He saw all the same things, but yet he never really committed to living his life like Christ did. He never really followed Jesus. He just went with him. He wanted he wanted to be there in case there were some big benefits that come down the road that he could capitalize on. It is of my opinion, and this is just, I want you to know, this is just my opinion, that whenever he went to betray Jesus, he was trying to plot out his exit. Bear with my thoughts. 3.5 years he's followed this guy around. This guy has had the potential to make millions. This guy has the potential to lead an army to overthrow not just the religious rulers, but also the Roman government. And what was he doing? Still walking around with the poor people, still ministering to those who were lame, who were sick, who some dead, some blind, and never capitalizing on it. They never had 2 extra nickels to rub together. You know, I think that Judas looked at him and thought, you know, you could do so much more with it. You could accomplish so much more. You could have the whole world if you wanted it. Well, remember, Satan offered it to him once. And I think that this was his plot, to think, this guy's never going to amount to anything. I've got a chance here to make some money, and this is going to fund my exit. And so he sold him out for 30 pieces of silver. That's just my theory. The reason I bring this up is because there are so many throughout history who have never been true followers, but they have been tag-alongers. They never wanted to commit to anything that Christ was wanting them to do, but they stayed close enough just so that they can maybe capitalize on some fringe benefits. You know who I'm talking about. The type of people that claim Christianity, something goes wrong, they blame God, but then they will also cry out, God, you've got to fix this. You've got to fix this. You've got to do something here because I've been walking around you for all this time, but I've never really followed. See, when Jesus speaks to our heart, he's not making promises. He's not saying, not promises like what the rest of the world does. But he speaks in a very clear voice, and he speaks in a way with compassion and with love. He says, just come follow me. Just come follow me. And if you will follow me, you're going to see what it's worth. Now, Jesus very simply invited his disciples to follow him. But I can't find any place in the Bible to where he says, won't you stay just another week and give it another try? Why was that? It's because they were seeing something in him that was transforming their lives and making them feel like they were better people. He was giving them something that they never really dreamed for themselves even. They didn't know it was possible. See, the religious society at that time was more into separating themselves from everybody else than to pulling us close. If God would have been about making sure that come follow me so that you can just be bombarded with all these rules, and here's all the things that you can't do, and here's the things that you can do, Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes would have all been the disciples. Not the fisherman, not the tax collector, not the guy on the street. He wants us to know that one command, come follow me, and then love like I've loved you. You want your list of rules? Love just like I've loved you. Can you do it? Well, we make mistakes. We stumble, we fall. But we can do it. It takes practice. It takes putting what you learn about Christ into action. Start applying it to your life. It's not about being that perfect individual. It's not about being the mountain of faith that everybody in the country looks to and says, wow, look at that. It's about that person who just says, I don't know how God's going to do this. I really don't, but he's brought me this far. He's never forsaken me, so why should I want to forsake him? We like to use the excuse whenever God calls us to do something, but I'm not qualified. I'm just not qualified. I wore that one out. I'm not qualified. There's somebody more qualified to do this. And the right answer is, yes, that's right, but I'm calling you. I'm inviting you. But I'm not going to stand here and just beat you to death with it. But come follow me. Just follow me. That's all I ask you to do. Just follow me. If we will look at the invitation that Christ offers to us in that simple term, just follow me. Watch what I do and try and do it yourself. The Apostle Paul says, imitate me just like I imitate Christ. That's all I'm doing. I'm I'm not the one you look to. I'm just trying to imitate Christ. What was Jesus doing whenever he was here? He was trying to do the will of his Father. He was doing the will of his Father. So if we can just watch what he does, learn what he does, try and think how he thinks, and then just try and imitate that. Follow me. Come follow me. Invitation simple. We're the ones who makes it difficult. When God speaks to your heart and says, I just want you to do this. I just want you to do this. Instead of looking at all that it's going to entail, instead of looking at how unqualified you or I are to do it, remember those simple words. Just follow me. And following me means I'll do the leading, you do the following. We've all played follow the leader whenever we were kids. And that's a lot what Christianity is about. Following the leader. Very simple, very straightforward. Let him do the qualifying instead of us doing the disqualifying. This morning as we've gathered here for worship, God speaks to our hearts at different times